Sunday morning in the south of France. Welcome to the Circuit Paul Ricard as the green flag is waved and qualifying just 20 minutes gets underway for the Blancpain GT Sports Club. It's round 3. It's the familiar format of a single driver per car, one qualifying session, then a qualifying race that sorts out the grid for the main race. More points on offer in that. And this, a series that has been a roaring success. It effectively takes the real amateur drivers, the gentlemen, the bronze-graded drivers out of the heat of the ever-increasingly intense Blancpain GT Series Endurance Cup and gives them the track time against drivers of similar backgrounds and without the stress of pit stops, without the stress of having to dart out of the way of the pro drivers. This is an environment where the gentlemen racers can really enjoy themselves, and with that as a backdrop, who wouldn't? It's a very busy grid that we have this weekend, 29 cars in total. You've got, inevitably, Audi R8 LMS Ultras in the entry. You've got the Mercedes, you've got Ferrari. Lamborghini Gallardo is here with Kirch McKenzie's car. There would have been a Huracan for Cedric Lima. That has been withdrawn, so we've got 29 cars. But even so, that is certainly enough to give us a very busy qualifying session and two cracking races, the first of which comes up at 10 minutes past 11. And then the main race, 5 minutes past 2. It is going to be for the first race 25 minutes, for the second 40 minutes, and this qualifying session sorts out the grid for the first of those two races, the qualifying race. Jean-Michel Bart, number 6 Audi, you caught a glimpse of. So far this year, we've had 4 races, 2 at Misano, of course, qualifying in main, 2 at Brands Hatch, the same principle. Nicolas Misselin, experienced Ferrari peddler, was the winner of the qualifying race in Italy. Mario Cordoni won the main race. Cordoni not on the entry list this weekend, which is a shame, whereas Michael Broniewski was the winner of 2 races at Brands Hatch, both the quali and the main race, and he's already had a good weekend here because Broniewski was the winner, or part of the 3 winning driving team of the Pro-Am Cup in last night's Blancpain GT Series Endurance Cup. So Broniewski comes here, as I say, on a roll. How much sleep he'll have got is a moot point, but bright and early, he's back at the track and raring to go. He, of course, has the track knowledge, bearing in mind the long stints that he did last night. As over the timing line goes 21 BMW. Now, it's good to have Z4s on track. I know they've been superseded by the M6 for this year, but there's still something really charismatic for my money about the Z4. 21 is Pierre Hershey. Now, Pierre has been a regular in the Blancpain series over the years. The Swiss driver, whose son Jonathan Hershey has also been a very quick GT peddler, ex-Formula Renault racer and rally driver, but his father, no slouch, and having been one of the mainstays of the Bronze Cup, the AM Cup, for a number of years. Now, back to racing solo, because it's one driver, one car in this series. Pierre Hershey could well be a man to watch. So too could Claude-Yves Gosselin, one-time Formula 3000 racer Claude-Yves Gosselin. He heads the entry for Saint-Loc. I love the fact that in an entry largely made up of gentlemen racers, it's the Saint-Loc Junior team that's the entrant name. But I would have thought that given his experience, he was once part of the Paul Belmondo Racing Viper team, Claude-Yves Gosselin. He should be up at the front of the grid, and we shall see. Now, unlike the 6-hour Blancpain race last night, the Mistral Straight is cut for these drivers, so they use the chicane Nord there, wriggling their way now back onto the Mistral Straight. So although I was talking earlier about Michael Broniewski having got the track knowledge from last night, the track that he's on today is a little bit different. Pierre Hershey setting purples, in other words, doing the absolute best in sectors, but in fairness, it's no real surprise because it's the first proper flying lap from people. Also doing well in sectors is number 30, Marc Soord, with the Mercedes. Now, Marc Soord was winning Renault championships back in 1971, so very much one of the elder statesmen of French GT racing. Marc Soord, winner of a one-off British GT race at Donington Park in 1995, but he's doing good sector times at the moment in the Mercedes. Pierre Hershey, though, is going to set the target time, isn't he, number 21, as he heads up now towards Virage du Lac. In 20 minutes, you're not going to get that many laps in, it's got to be said, in a qualifying session like this. So we'll see how he fares. And up towards Virage du Pont comes Pierre Hershey. Heads towards the timing line now. And Pierre Hershey's the first driver to do a proper target time, and it's 2 minutes 13.068. Claude-Yves Gosselin in the 2:15s. And then 888, the Mentos Racing Porsche of Guido Perfetti, who is brother of Daniele, even though he is by nationality Norwegian rather than being Swiss. Enrico Perfetti up to the top of the times on a 2:11, but Marc Soord is going to go top when he gets to the end of the lap. Marc Soord, no, he doesn't go top, he goes second. I was about to offer you the fact that he'd done 2 absolute bests in sectors 1 and 2, and he had, but then his third sector wasn't quite as good as it was for Egidio Perfetti. So Marc Soord ends up 4/10 of a second back. Lamborghini Gallardo into shot, and 87 getting out of the way is Daniele Perfetti, who was a very much last-minute entry, and Daniele missed out on free practice, didn't take part in that. He was another driver doing the Blancpain race last night. 89 Mercedes there you can see is Maurice Ricci, likewise. And from memory, Maurice Ricci was a class winner yesterday. No, he wasn't. He was second in class yesterday. Yes, it was a Ferrari win, but the Mercedes lost out towards the end. So Maurice Ricci runner-up in class yesterday evening. The Audis getting themselves together up towards the chicane. Paul Ricard, of course, with many different configurations these days after its many years not being a public racetrack, but just a high-performance test centre. Number 30 Mercedes then rumbles its way out of the chicane. Marc Soord, the car, by dint of being rather anonymous and silver, almost reminiscent of the Jones brothers Mercedes from years past, but he's found himself in a lot of traffic. The Gallardo up the road, the HP Racing, Harry Protchik's team, that's the car of Kirk McKenzie, which uses the curb though as it tries to squeeze up the inside of the Audi of Pierre Feligioni. So at the moment, it is Egidio Perfetti the fastest, Marc Soord is second, third fastest now has gone McKenzie in the Lamborghini, but not for long, because at the top of the times again goes Pierre Hershey. Now, he was one of the first out. He's got himself away from any traffic. We're almost at the halfway point, not far away from it now, as Pierre Hershey then is the fastest, 2 minutes 10.722. And there are still quite a few drivers yet to do a proper time. 27 cars showed on the timing screen, 29 we were anticipating, so we have lost a couple, or a couple have not yet ventured out. It is a bit early. So, pressing on, number 17, Lamborghini. Coach McKenzie through, up the inside then, coming down towards the chicane. He's not yet been on the podium this year, but it's good to have older cars like the Gallardo within the championship. And again, like other GT series, different categorisations in this. You've got the overall, then there is the Iron Cup, which is for drivers aged 60 and over, and the Extra Cup, which is used at selected rounds, really to bring older cars from one-make championships into the equation. So McKenzie turning his way through. The series has 2 more events. For the first time, we'll go to the Spa 24 Hours at the end of July, and then it concludes in Barcelona, goes to the Spanish circuit, first weekend of October. Now, has Bronizeski gone out yet? No, I think is the answer. And a red flag, because you've got a car in an awkward place parked at the approach of the chicane. So that's the reason that the session is being stopped, hopefully just briefly. And it's the Mercedes that needs to be moved out of harm's way. So the session is interrupted. That goes against about 4 drivers that still haven't got a time to their name. It's a funny place for the car to grind to a halt, which makes me think it's a mechanical issue more than anything else. But the marshals swiftly try and push the Jean-Paul Bouffin Mercedes off the road. Jean-Paul Bouffin was another driver that we've seen in the past in the Blancpain GT Series Endurance Cup, but like a number of drivers, electing now for, if I say a quieter life, that's almost a bit flippant, but a life where he doesn't have to worry about faster drivers around him, worrying about being lapped all the time. He can just drive his own race and perhaps get more enjoyment out of this. And 1 or 2 others have switched as well. Leon Price in this, in the Kessel Racing Ferrari. He's another driver who we used to see in the Endurance Cup. Jan Brunstedt, Steve Earle, who was the American driver, he was also in Blancpain last night. He's in this, getting lots of mileage for his trip over from the States. Gary Kondakov is a recent switch. I think I said earlier on, Mario Cordoni wasn't in the entry list this weekend. I told you a fib. He is, but has not yet done a lap time. So Cordoni is one of those that was keeping his powder dry, but just as he went out, the red flags came out as well. So he has not yet been able to prove exactly what he can do this weekend. As far as the championship is concerned, thank you, Tom, Mario Cordoni has this 5-point advantage from Michael Bronizeski. Nicolas Misselin is third. Karim Auger, another man that's been doing double duty in terms of the Endurance Cup last night and the GT Sports Club. He's fourth ahead of Patrick van Glabeke, and then Pier Giuseppe Perezzini is sixth. And there, the Kessel Racing Ferrari, Steve Earle, in the pit lane. So another of the Kessel Racing fleet of Ferraris for Steve Earle to drive. His Blancpain car last night was rather crumpled around the back end, and he had a pit stop to rip some of the flapping bodywork away, but Kessel Racing has more than one Ferrari. There's a whole fleet of them, and it also runs cars in the Ferrari Challenge, so the American driver is put into, if you like, the sprint type of car. There's no real need to have a long-range fuel tank in this. So the car in the pit lane, 65 also, waiting for the restart. Another of the Kessel fleet, Alexis de Bernardi. So it's good to have more and more new drivers coming into this series from different categories. All the lap times that are improved under the red flags are being cancelled, so the timekeepers and the race officials just quickly tinkering with the order as we go green once again with just over 11 minutes still to run, and out goes the Mentos Porsche of Egidio Perfetti. That's now third fastest, but 11 minutes by the time you've taken out the outlap and then you've done your first flying lap, you're not left with much time left in the session. 63, the Sellerslach Racing Team Corvette of Nico van Dierendonck, somebody else that we've seen in the Blancpain Endurance Series in the past, and the Sellerslach Racing Team, that takes you back to the FIA GT1 World Championship days. Oliver Gavin was among the drivers for Patrick Sellerslach's team, still loyal to Corvette. So there's lots of variety in this. It's a really good grid, and it's a burgeoning series because more and more drivers coming into it. We've got cars having lap times cancelled for doing naughty things under red flags. We've also got people being investigated for overtaking one another under the red flag. So early doors, the race officials are going to be busy. And at the moment, the fastest lap time is credited to Patrick van Glabeke, the Belgian driver in the AF Corsa Ferrari. So it's Glabeke, Hershey, Egidio Perfetti. Fourth is now 63, which is Nico van Dierendonck. Fifth fastest, number 12, which is Jean-Michel Bart. And sixth, Mark Soord. Now, what has happened to Bronizeski? He has not yet done a time, nor has Cordoni. So we've got two quick drivers yet to really show their hand in this, and they haven't got terribly much in terms of lap times. Number 9 is going to be removed to the pit entry. That's the car that caused the stoppage, 9 being Jean-Paul Buffin. Track limits at senior there, the corner in the background has been a real issue over the weekend. You can see the little floppy markers put down as the deterrent. Go the wrong side of those, penalties start to fly. 63 worked his way around turn 11. So Nico van Dierendonck pushing on this morning. So two of the Ferraris now on the top teams run cars in this series. AF Corsa there running Mario Cordoni's car. So Cordoni, having had a rather more leisurely breakfast than others, missed effectively the first half of the session, but he's on his toes now up towards the timing line, and this will put him onto a flying lap. So still we're not going to get a proper idea of the relative time that he can do until the next lap is done by Cordoni, but he goes through them. Mario Cordoni over the timing line and onto a proper flying lap now, and by dint of being first out, so he's managed to get himself free of any of the traffic. Now the best first sector is a 35.8. Sector 1 takes you all the way down to the exit of turn 5. He's heading towards turn 4 right now. Hard on the brakes, look at all the curb he can use on the inside, which he does, avoids the bollard. If you hit that, then track limit starts to become a factor. And Cordoni will turn his way towards the end of sector 1 now, as he squirts the car about 0.2 of a second away from the absolute best in that sector. It's a personal best, but it's the first flying lap, so of course it would be, but it's the sector times relative to the absolute best that we need to be looking at. So he was 0.2, he's now half a second down in the first sector because Egidio Perfetti has just done 35.5 in sector 1. So Perfetti in the Porsche looking good. Brother Daniele is in the entry, former British GT champion. But at the moment, Daniele Perfetti is not sparkling in quite the same way. Cordoni is in the middle sector. He will complete that as he turns up through Senior. And he's about so to do into the right-hander now. 39.0 is about 2/10 down within the middle sector as well. You could argue that there's more to come on the next lap once he put himself into a proper rhythm, but the fascination is going to be where he can put himself on his first flying lap here. There's also Augusto Perfetti, which is dad in the entry. He's 20th at the moment in number 154, also entered by Mentos Racing. Daniele Perfetti drives 87, the ASP Mercedes, and has not yet done a lap time, but he is doing quick sectors. So Cordoni up towards the end of his first flying lap of the session. 7 minutes are on the clock. Best lap we've got is a 2 minutes 9, so you can see you don't get many laps in the time allowed. Up towards the timing line he comes then, and the first flying lap from Cordoni should put him reasonably far up the pecking order. It puts him top indeed. It may not have been brilliant in the sectors, but it was well strung together. So he goes fastest briefly on a 2 minutes 9.026, but then Edigio Perfetti goes even quicker into the 7s, and Daniele Perfetti goes second. So Cordoni's moment of glory was a brief one. He's down to 3rd. So the brothers Perfetti, 1st and 2nd. Edigio is quicker than Daniele by 1.2 seconds. Cordoni down at turn 4. But the Sweet Empire magnates, the Perfetti brothers, top the times. 2 minutes 7.4 for Edigio, 2 minutes 8.6 for Daniele. There is Edigio Perfetti in the Mentos Racing Porsche. So offering promotion for another of the brands in the family empire. Onto the Mistral straight he comes. Clock ticks down. Where in all of this is Mark Sword, who was looking quick early on. Mark Sword is due an improvement because he's done 2 personal bests in number 30. And number 11, Michael Bronizeski, class winner last night in the Blancpain endurance race. He is about to do a very good lap time because he's done a personal and an absolute best in number 11 Ferrari. Michael Bronizeski is in the last sector, and in a moment should make his way up towards the timing line. You're looking at Perfetti as he works his way up now towards Senior, and as he turns through the right-hander, Bronizeski has gone 2nd fastest. So his first flying lap, Bronizeski puts him 2nd. Porsche topping the times though, which is good to see. Really leaning the car on its suspension through turn 11, bit of correction needed, and then way up onto the curb goes Egidio Perfetti as he heads up towards the end of the lap. So Perfetti in the Porsche heads towards Virage du Lac. Bronizeski 3/10 shy, 5 more minutes of the session to go. Daniele Perfetti is 3rd, and the slowest car at the moment is at 52, Gary Kondakov, having his first outing in the Blancpain GT Sports Club, having moved across from the Endurance Cup where he was in the AM category, but moving across to this series for the remainder of the year. Right, there is Cordoni. Behind him on track is Egidio Perfetti. Now Cordoni is 4th because the order is Perfetti there, then it's Bronizeski, Perfetti D, Cordoni is 4th, 5th now in 4.88 is Patrick van Glabacker, who was 2nd in the qualifying race at Brands and 3rd in the main race at Brands, and then 6th fastest now is number 18, Daniel Voigt, the Liechtenstein driver. But Bronizeski is a man on a mission. He's done a personal and another absolute best in the middle sector, so number 11 Ferrari should go to the top of the times. There is 4.88 Patrick van Glabacker with his AF Corsa run Ferrari, and as the number would suggest, it is a 4.88. Got lots of 4.58s, of course, in the entry. Down towards turn 4 he goes. Jan Brunstedt's Audi there around the outside. 11 is Michael Bronizeski. So the man that won Pro-Am last night, Kessel Racing, had a very good 6 hours because it was a Kessel car that won Pro-Am, a Kessel car that won the Am Cup as well last night. And Bronizeski being held up in the traffic, but he's absolutely committed to this. You could argue that because of his experience, Bronizeski's a bit of a cut above most of the Ams in this championship, but he's pushing on nonetheless, and this could well be a pole position lap, depending on how much he lost in the traffic there. Up towards the timing line, personal best, absolute best in sectors 1 and 2, and he did lose out in sector 3, so Bronizeski stays 3rd, and the lap time was slower than he had done earlier. So no improvement for number 11, Bronizeski, but somebody else that's on a big mission now in number 63 is Nico van Dierendonck, because the Corvette has just done the absolute best middle sector. 14th fastest is van Dierendonck, there is 89, which is the AKA ASP Mercedes of Maurice Ricci, but that's only 8th fastest, Maurice Ricci. Another experienced driver. Years of experience of French and international GT racing. There is Van Dierendonck. Now this should be an improvement. Depends how he can string together all the sectors. The Corvette growling its way up towards the Virage du Lac. Ahead up the road is Egidio Perfetti. There's 2 minutes and 40 on the clock. They'll just get 2 more laps out of the session, these cars. Through Virage du Lac goes Maurice Ricci. So the Corvette, first of all, will try to set an improved lap time. 66 has just lost a lap time for track limit abuse. 66, it says on the screen, but we haven't got a 66 in the entry, so the plot thickens. Over the timing line goes Maurice Ricci. Let's do him first of all. He's up to 4th fastest now, 2 minutes 8.439. Number 18, also an improver, which is Daniel Voigt. He's up to 3rd, 2 minutes 8.225. And Nico Van Dierendonck did go quicker, 6th fastest now, 2 minutes 8.790. Again, because in the main you're dealing with gentlemen racers and they've not had a huge amount of track time, they're learning with every lap, so it means that qualifying is always a jumbled affair. It also means a lot happens in the races. They're going to have to cope with very high temperatures as well. They get a race at 10 past 11 and one in the real high heat of the day at 5 past 2. So onto the Mistral straight comes Nico Van Dierendonck, powering his way down towards the chicane, and he might just squeeze one more lap out of the session. Egidio Perfetti, quickest, he has now pitted. All 29 have set a lap time, and in fact, even though he's not circulating anymore, Jean-Paul Bouffin is not the slowest. He's hanging on to 28th on this grid. 87, Daniele Perfetti then lost out of the middle sector, but he did do an improvement in the first. So Daniele, former British GT champion for Motorbase, the team that runs the Aston Martin in Blancpain, when he and Michael Caine got together. They didn't win a race, but they won the championship that year in a very dramatic finale at Donington Park. So working his way up towards the completion of what's going to be his penultimate flying lap, I would propose, is Daniele Perfetti. Up the road, he's got the Lamborghini, hasn't he, of Coach McKenzie, that's dropped to 8th quickest in the session now. And Perfetti, who's also massively experienced, he's done lots of GT racing, he's had some one-make outings as well at the Clio Cup and Carrera Cups as well. He makes his way up towards the timing line, runs it out wide over the curb, and lower down the order, 666, which is Yoshi Omura. He has just done a personal and an absolute best. Perfetti goes through and improves the lap time, 5th quickest, but 666 now, which is the Stila F Squadra Corsa Ferrari of Yoshiki Omura. That could well be at the top of the times by the end of the lap. There's 51 Ferrari, which is Christoph Ulrich. The flag is out, 23 heading for it, which is another of the Stila F Squadra Corsa cars, Martin Grab, the Swiss driver, up towards the timing line. That's a car that at the moment is only 23rd. Pushing on in number 12 Audi there, the W Racing Team car, run by Team WRT, Jean-Michel Bart. And there is Yoshiki Omura, who is going to bail, believe it or not. Having done a personal and an absolute best, he's going to head for the pit lane. So instead of being at the top, he's going to end up 19th. And I promise you, if he carried on, that would have been a big improvement. So Yoshiki Omura, having lost out a little bit in traffic, still would have been an improver given how much he had gained in sectors 1 and 2. Even if it wouldn't have been pole position, it would have been a lap time better than for 19th. So might not have turned out to be the best decision by Omura, but it will be a car to watch in the race, because if you can do those sort of sector times, then there's the potential for a big improvement when we get to racing. Patrick Van Glabbeker's car 6th at the end of the session, but now we start to have lap times being cancelled for track limits. So as soon as everybody has taken the flag, we can have a look at who is where in the order. Just a handful of cars still to come through. And it is then Egidio Perfetti who is the fastest, 2 minutes 7.420, 3 tenths between him and Michael Bronizeski. So Egidio Perfetti doing a very good job here. The Porsche, numerically, nowhere near the strongest car in the entry. Egidio hasn't done anywhere near as many laps around here this weekend as Bronizeski has. Maybe Michael's feeling a bit groggy from the exertions of last night. But either way, Egidio Perfetti is the fastest at the end of the session. And the cars now making their way down the pit lane. So there's 87, which is Daniele Perfetti's car. That is 5th quickest. They make their way down the pit road and then towards Parc Fermé. Coach McKenzie's Lamborghini. That was a car that started off okay and was still in the top 10 come the end. It was 8th fastest. So the ACA ASP squad, having had a busy couple of days, they are using cars that they ran in the endurance race last night. They haven't got quite as many in the fleet as, for example, Kessel Racing has. So, a look at the order at the end of the Blancpain GT Sports Club qualifying. Egidio Perfetti topping the times ahead of Michael Bronizeski, and then Daniel Voigt 3rd. Maurice Ricci 4th ahead of Daniele Perfetti. Patrick Van Glabacker is 6th from Mario Cordoni, who didn't really deliver as expected. Coach McKenzie 8th from Martin Lanting. Marc Soud 10th. Alexis de Bernardi was 11th fastest, and 12th Pierre Hershey. Then Jean-Michel Bart from Nico van Dierendonk. Steve Earle and Jan Brunstedt are 15th and 16th, ahead of a rather subdued Claude-Yves Gosselin. Then Louis-Philippe Cernan from Yoshiki Omura and Klaus-Dieter Frères. Gilles Lallemand, 21st, another driver on double duty this weekend. Behind him, 51, which is Christoph Ulrich. Then 23, which is Martin Grab. And you've got the likes of Leon Price and Gary Kondakov to round out the order. So, 2 races to look forward to in the Blancpain GT Sports Club during the course of the day. Race 1 at 11:10. Join us for that if you can, and it should be a very lively race indeed. We'll see you later on in the day. But for now, qualifying completed here at Paul Ricard. We'll have race 1 coming up at 11:10 local time. For now, from David Anderson in the sunshine, it's goodbye. We'll see you in a few hours. Bye for now.